handle her. Light the candle up, make you put a banner up. Toss a 50 up, make them tie the club up. Took your bitch out the game, I had to suck.
Page 101, English, Spanish, 124. I am going to go pretty fast in the video, so you can put me on slow motion and listen to me go really slow. And pause whenever you need to pause, because I want you to have all your work done and make sure you're good to go. So this is manipulating equations to start, and it says solve for r, and it says d equals rt. This is a distance equals rate times time formula. And if we're going to solve for r, that means we have to get rid of t, and because it's touching, that means multiplying, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by t on both sides, and that's all we're doing. The t's cancel. R equals d over t. That's the answer. These are just one-step manipulating equations. It's to warm you up, get you ready, get you to know how to do these. These are not the ones on the test. The test will be harder than this, but this is a good warm-up. Solve for w. W is here, and there's a plus 9 in the way, so we do the opposite, and that is minus 9 to both sides. Cross the 9's off there, and your answer is w equals L minus 9. We talked about this the other day. How do you get rid of a fraction? 1/3, you do the inverse. So we're going to multiply 3 over 1, or just 3, because that is what 3 over 1 is. And now n is by itself, but on the other side is 3b. And we always want to put the coefficient in front of the variable. So always put the number in front of the letter. And that's your warm-up on the manipulating the equations. Here's a domain and range problem from the past. Hopefully you know how to do this. Domain and range, brackets, range here, domain here. This is just a reminder from December, right? So this is -5, and it goes to 7, -5 to 7. As far as low, this is -4 low, and high is 6. So that one's done. This is on your test. You have to learn how to graph these inequalities. It's probably the first time you're seeing this year, but you have to learn this. This says x is greater than -3. Just so you have a note, this is your greater than symbol. Maybe you should write this. And then this is your less than. Okay, and we'll write 2 more. We're going to write greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to. So you can pause right here if you need to get that still. Okay. Graph the inequality on the number line. It says x is greater than -3. So we have to find -3 first. Okay, it's going to be right about here. This is -3. I found it. We're going to put a open circle, and this is something that you may not remember or may have never learned. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little note. Remember this note that you wrote down? This is an open circle. This is an open circle. These are filled in circles. Okay, and why is that important? Because when you come to your number line, you have to look here, match it, and do an open circle at that number. And then here's the cool part. Because x is first right here, it's shading this way. The arrow is literally pointing that way. So we're just going to shade this distance. Okay. So x is greater than -3 looks like this. Open circle shaded to the right. Next page. We're manipulating equations. Solve for x. X equals 7. We need to get x by itself, so we're going to divide a on both sides. I can find x by dividing a on both sides. So it's going to be x equals 7 over a. Next one says solve for p. 8 plus p is w. You got to get this 8 out of there, so you're going to subtract 8. I can find p by subtracting 8. And p equals w minus 8. Solve for m. E equals mc squared. Well, Einstein stuff, you know what I'm saying? Well, we don't have to square root anything because it just wants m solved, so we're just going to divide by the c squared. Okay, nothing fancy. Divide by c squared. Now, if it wanted us to solve for c, we would have to do the square root, but we're solving for m. So m equals e over c squared. We're just moving things around. Moving things around. Solve for t in the d equals rt. So that's the first time we solved in the beginning of this video, we solved for r, now we're solving for t. We'll divide by r this time. So we'll say divide r, and t equals distance over rate. Solve for b minus 11, so do the opposite, opuesto, right? Más 11, los dos lados. So b equals 3 plus 11, 14. I can find b by adding 11. Solve for y, and 1/2 y equals k. We've learned this now. A fraction is flipped. When we want to multiply, we just do it to both sides, right? 2 over 1 is the same as 2, so I'm just going to cross those off. I'm going to say multiply 2 on both sides, and y equals 2k. See how it says k2? But when you write it, you're going to want to put the coefficient in front of the variable, the number in front of the letter. This is a good one. Might see this on a test, right? Y equals mx plus b, solve for x. First, we need to subtract b first, okay? So subtract b, then divide by m. So we have y minus b equals mx, and it wants us to solve for x, so we have to divide by m on both sides. So my answer is actually going to be x equals y minus b over m. Let's go down to, let's see what page is good. Find the domain and range, find the domain and range. We can skip 16, 17. Let's go to page 105 in the English one. Spanish, that is 130. So 105 English and Spanish is 130. 105 English, Spanish, 130. And then domain and range of these things. So we'll just say domain, bracket, bracket, range, bracket, bracket, same thing here. Domain, range, bracket, bracket. All right, looks like the domain goes from 1 to 12. And the range goes from -4 to 8. This one looks like it goes from 0 to 3. And the height, the least minimum is 0, and the height is 7. So there's those two. And now we get to some inequalities, which we just discovered, okay? Don't forget to look at your notes if you need to know which way it shades and which way the dots go and the dots filled in, open circle. This says x is less than 6. So you see this blank line? Here's the easiest way to do this. Put a 0 like right here, and then put a 6 like right here. Okay, this is the easiest way to do these. You could do all the dots and the hashes and but it just takes time. So this is simple. 0 and 6, okay? And then since this is a less than sign, we want to open circle at 6, and we're going to shade where the arrow is pointing, which it's pointing this way this time. So we're going to shade this way. That's it. This one, see how it's -9? It says x is greater than or equal to -9. So we are going to put 0 here this time. That's 0. And then this is going to be the -9. And we're going to shade to the right, but it's a filled in circle because of the equal to symbol there. So we're going to shade like this. Alrighty. This is something you've probably never seen before, but if you just look, it looks confusing, but if you just look at this part here first, this says x is less than 0. Okay, so we know that that's less than 0. Now this one is written backwards, so it's hard to see, but if I write it forwards, like see how the open part's touching the x? I can write it this way for you so you can see it. And now that says x is greater than or equal to -7. So that means that my shading is going to be between 0 and -7. So I'm going to put 0 right here and -7 right here. And look at this one's going to be an open circle at 0, but a closed circle at -7. And then the shading just happens in between because it's less than 0 but greater than -7. So it's going to be in between those two. And then this one is going to be pretty much the same thing, right? 8 and -15. And it looks like we have a closed circle at 8 and an open circle at -15, and we're shading in between it. That's it. Okay, you can pause here if you need to see that. Let's go on to lesson 3 if we have time. Let's do some of these equations together. Okay, page 107 for English. And Spanish is 133. Spanish 133. English 107. We have 5 different equations here, and we're going to solve them 5 different ways using everything we've learned. So bottom number has to get rid of first, so we're going to multiply everything by 5. So the 5 can go bye-bye. Okay, now 7 times 5 is 35. So we're going to rewrite this as 3x plus 2 equals 35. And now we're going to solve this by subtracting 2 first. 3x equals 33. And then we're going to divide by 3 next. Divide by 3. So x is going to be 11. And you're welcome to pause these and try them before I try them. Like you don't have, like if you know what you're doing and you want me to wait, just pause and then do them and then see how you did. This is going to be this is going to be a little interesting because of that 2y right there. So let's do this one. It's not going to be your traditional like 11. You're not going to get an answer like this one because that 2y is going to be in the way. But we're still going to multiply 5. And we still get 35 again. So it's going to be, I'm going to do it over here. 3x plus 2y equals 35. This is the second one. We have to just subtract 2y. This is like, there's no math here because 35 minus 2y, there's nothing, you can't do that. So 3x equals 35 minus 2y. You just put it next to it like that. And then divide everything by 3, right? Which we'll probably simplify like this. X equals 35 over 3 minus 2 over 3y, like that. And again, that's weird, but because they threw a letter in there, you can't really get an answer. Unless you give me what y is, then I could solve it. But this one, we're going to add 5 to both sides and get 16 on this side. So 4x over 3 equals 16. We're going to do one move, okay? We're going to do the inverse of 4/3, which is 3/4. And we're going to do it to both sides. Cross off the 3's and the 4's. And x equals whatever 16 times 3 divided by 4 is. 16 times 3 is 48, and 48 divided by 4 is 12. You can also do it this way. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Then this is the same problem, except for they stuck that y in again. So shame on them. Okay, plus 5y. So 4x over 3 equals 11 plus 5y. Because you can't add them because the y is there. So it has to be like this. I'm still going to do this 3/4 thing and cross these off. And then this one gets in parentheses with the 3/4 on the outside like that. And honestly, I might just leave it like that, like 3/4 times 11 plus 5y, and just leave it like this. Because what's the point of me doing 3/4 times 11 and 3/4 times 5y? I don't want to. This one, we have to do the reciprocal first. So what's the reciprocal of 2/5? It's 5/2 in parentheses. Cross off the 5 and 2, multiply, whatever you do to one side, you got to do the other side. And 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So x plus 3 equals 15, and now you're solving this. And I'm not going to solve that for you, so please do it yourself by subtracting 3 on both sides. Figure it out. We got some tough equations here, followed by manipulating equations, and then we'll end this video, okay? So we're going to do the reciprocal, just like we did on the last one, 5/2, cross, cross, 5/2, okay? And this ended up being 15, right? So x plus y equals 15, and it wants us to solve for x, so we just subtract y on both sides. X equals 15, take away y. Just remember that those don't go together, okay? So it's going to be looking like that. And pause it if you need it, okay? The next one's straightforward. Solve for x problem. This is a 4-step. This one, they throw a y in there, and that makes it kind of a bummer. So this is going to be let's divide 2 on everything first. Get rid of that 2. Because 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we end up having 3x plus 4 equals 2x plus 6. And all I did was divide everything by 2 on the right side. Now I can solve this like a traditional solve for x problem, like minus 2x on both sides.
X plus 4 equals 6. Now minus 4 on both sides. And you get x equals 2. And there's not a lot of room for me to work this last one, so I'm going to work it down below. So write this down. 2 times 3x plus 4y equals 4x plus 12y. So I'm going to do the same thing first. I'm going to divide everything by 2, you know, so 2. So the 2's gone, but you have to do 4 divided by 2 is 2x, and 12 divided by 2, which is 6y. So I'm going to rewrite this like this. Okay. I'm still going to do my minus 2x. It's the same as the problem before. I'm still going to have x here, but I have to subtract 4y now. So it ends up being x equals 2y, and that is actually your stopping point because it said solve for x, and x is by itself. Okay, and by the way, 3 minus 2 is 1x, but 1x is the same as x, so you're good. All right, last one for the day, for me, for this video. Solve for x. You have all this stuff in the way. This is a tough one. This is a test item. So make sure you make a note of that test item. Okay, so first we're going to add D first. Get rid of this. Okay, so we have AX plus B equals C over C equals E plus D. Now we're going to get rid of the C by multiplying C on both sides. And C times all those things. We can actually just distribute that in there. So AX plus B equals CE plus CD, because C times E is CE and C times D is CD. Now subtract B to all that, and you have AX, oh, you're like, I can't see it. AX equals CE plus CD minus B. And then the last step is to divide by A because you're solving for X. So we're dividing everything by A. And you have X equals CE plus CD minus B over A, and it looks really weird, and there it is. And I would just pause here, take a look at it again, see all the steps, make sure you have it copied down, and that's it. Thanks.